we are equal from a founder perspective. It's not about somebody getting more or less. The critical thing for us was that we wanted to make sure that our employees have enough stake in the system. Once they have stake first based on culture, values, what they see here, they love the work, and so they have stake. Second stake is real stake, right? So they have enough available and so whenever there is a exit opportunity, we will get it. So we have a lot at every round of fundraise to make sure that some more ESOPs are created. Our investors have been very cooperative on this, very supportive. They believed in the same ethos that we had in terms of making sure employees are kept happy. Listen, who said this? Richard Branson, I think. He says employees are more important than customers.
Dear listeners, this is your host Siddharth Aluwalia, founder of 100x Entrepreneur Podcast, along with my wife Nancy. Before we begin, I would like to thank our sponsors, Prime Venture Partners. Prime is the first institutional investor in category-creating tech startups like MyGate, Neo, Dozy, Planet Spark. Prime is now investing out of its fourth fund, which is more than $100 million. Today, I have with me Amit Somani, Managing Partner, Prime Ventures. Amit, would like to know how you evaluate founders and what are the different evaluation criteria like?
Siddharth, so at Prime, we look for what we call category creating or category defining startups. So we're really looking for in what way is a startup 10x better, 1,000% better than the current state of the art. It could be product, it could be technology, it could be go to market, it could be a business model, whatever. So that is one core criterion. As for the founders themselves, we're really looking for founders that have very high learning agility or a very high learning quotient. Why that is important, Siddharth, is as you're going through your seed to pre-Series A to Series A and sort of journey to build your company, to get product market fit, to accelerate it, you have to make a lot of trade-offs and a lot of decisions. So we're really looking for founders that have very high learning agility.
Thank you, Amit. So listeners, let's dive straight into this week's podcast. I have today somebody on the podcast who built the online grocery market in India for the last 20 years. Welcome, Hari Menon, founder and CEO of BigBasket. Hari, your journey started in 1999 with FabMart, and you were the very first early entrants into the e-commerce market, I would say, right? Getting groceries, getting even the electronics on the internet. And 2006, you exited the business profitably. What made you come back into the business again in 2010?
The reason we came back is I need to go back to 99 and I'll tell you what happened there. Very interesting story. We started our business in 99. We were actually we were working in another company called PlanetAsia.com. And there's a long story as to how we started. Accidental to some extent, and maybe I should tell you that. So we used to work in an internet services company. That was the first internet services company that existed in India at that point in time. So it's called PlanetAsia.com. And what happened at that time was Citibank was planning to build a payment gateway, and we had approached them to actually help them and bid for that payment gateway. And in the course of that discussion, it also happened that if you're building a payment gateway, then you need an e-commerce site. Otherwise, why are you building a payment gateway? And there's nothing available to use it. At that point in time, they were looking for people who could actually build a e-commerce site. And then we were sitting there and we looked at each other, and it was a moment of truth at that point in time. And we chose to actually pick that offer and then move on and build that internet site or e-commerce site as we used to call it at that time, so that the payment gateway could be in a sense used. And that payment gateway was the first payment gateway using a debit card. And I don't know whether you're aware that this would be the first debit card in India, which is called Suvidha, which Citibank had launched. So it was a payment gateway built around that. And that is how we got started. And that venture then was called FabMart.com, and it was exactly what today Flipkart is or what Amazon is, which is a horizontal and had everything. We started with music. And those days there was nothing like online music, and there was no music to be downloaded. People used to buy cassettes. And people, if they were doing well, they used to buy a CD. So if you have a car which plays a CD, you're doing well. So that's the way the whole business was at that point in time. So basically, things were so hyped that there wasn't absolutely any ecosystem that was available for an e-commerce company to run. And there were hundreds and hundreds of e-commerce companies coming up. Every day there used to be, I think, 5-10 companies coming up. All you needed was a .com attached to your name and you'll get funded. That was the situation in 99-2000, right?
In India.
In India. absolutely, very much in India. A lot of them in Bangalore. So I still remember once when we were traveling from Santa Cruz Airport to Nariman Point, there were 89 holdings, .com holdings we counted, 89. And that was the stuff happening at that point in time, 99, 2000. And as you all know, this bubble burst in 2000, right? It was just so overhyped. Frankly, there was no business at all. Even FabMart, when we started, we were well funded, we had a good product, we were selling music, then we got in books, then we got in jewelry, then we got in toys. There were hardly any transactions. The reason being that one, there was no ecosystem available. Everything was on basically dial-up lines. There was no broadband. And when dial-up lines, by the time the page loads, you can actually have a cup of tea and come back. That was the way the internet was working at that point, and people are building businesses around the internet. There was no payment gateway. What we used to do, and what the other e-commerce companies were doing, other kinds of commerce used to do, is that ask the customer to give you the card number, then you'll ask them to give you the CVV number, and then you'll authorize that backend.
Yeah.
So everyone got so scared that finally the news was that if you buy on an e-commerce site, you lose all your money in your bank. Because you're giving away everything. You're giving away your CV number. And it was really scary. And there were people who had lost money and stuff. So essentially, businesses just started collapsing because nobody would trust an e-commerce site because it didn't have a secure way of paying. There weren't enough logistics mechanisms which had come in. It was being run on dial-up lines. There was no broadband, so things were very slow. You didn't have access was only through desktops and stuff like that. You didn't have smartphones. You didn't have your iPads and all that stuff. So nothing was available. The business just collapsed. I don't know how many of you all know, but 2000 is when there was an absolute bloodbath.
Yep.
Companies just started shutting left and center. Funding had completely stopped. So anybody who wanted to do anything, 1 year of frenzy, and that's it. And the whole economy collapsed. And that is the single biggest thing that I tell people, that what you need to look for when you start a business is first is the ecosystem. You need an ecosystem which actually helps you set up your business. If there isn't an ecosystem, and this is an example as to give everybody as to how businesses were set up. Millions and millions of dollars were invested and just all got wiped off literally overnight. 2011, fast forward, and then so our business, the other business ran, and then what we did was, since there was no online business coming in, we actually did a pivot. And we were brave enough at that point in time to even do grocery. And grocery is one of the most complex, difficult businesses. So we said, let's do grocery online also. You know how brave we were, and businesses are shutting all over the place. So we set up grocery, and we knew how grocery was to be done. You had to set up warehouses. Grocery you can't do without owning inventory, right? That's the model that runs. People have tried different models, none of them have worked. So we set up this infrastructure, and that infrastructure was available for us. So what we chose to do at that point in time, when businesses were all collapsing and there wasn't anything happening on the internet, was to see how we can actually pivot and do something else and leverage what we built. And the first thing that came to our mind was to build a physical grocery chain. And that looked like a very promising business to get into at that point in time, because there was just one chain in India, in south of India, which was called Food World. There was a little bit of Nilgiris, and nowhere else was there modern trade, what we call today, which is a chain of physical grocery stores. And we thought there's a great opportunity. That pivot was one of the best things we did in life. That's another story as to how we were traveling in a flight, and with three of us founders, we decided to do this pivot. And I was the guy who said we shouldn't be doing it. These founders are very emotional in life. They're very attached. So they just don't want to let go. So I was that very attached human being. It said, no, FabMart will run, these things will happen, internet will get faster, payment gateway will come, we can't let this business off. 2 years of hard work, really hard work, and no customers were. Very little business. And my other two partners, co-founders, kept saying, listen, this is our opportunity to do something, otherwise this won't go anywhere. So democratic country, 2 versus 1, I lost that battle. And today, I thank myself for losing that battle. Because I lost that battle, we went into the physical business. And then there was no looking back. We really scaled that business, merged into a company in Hyderabad called Trinetra. Eventually, in 2006, we had built close to about 210 stores in south of India. We covered Bangalore, Chennai, Kerala, and there were 2 brands that we were running. One was Trinetra and the other one was Fab Mall. That was the set of stores that we had built, actually, the physical grocery stores. And in end 2006, the Aditya Birla Group wanted to get into the grocery business because corporates had started setting up physical grocery chains. Reliance had started, Future had started. They also wanted to get into that space, and they came and made an offer and acquired us. So there was light at the end of the tunnel. The pivot helped. That flight was It will never go away from my head, and if we didn't do it, we wouldn't be where we are even today with BigBasket, because we wouldn't have gone through the experience of grocery, of how do you run a grocery chain, and which we did eventually for starting that year or so in online, and then about 4 years setting up a physical, using technology, using a lot of new things that we did actually at that point in time, and became a very good chain then. And those are the stores that you are now see which are called More, which Altibla acquired. They renamed Fab Mall and More. So that's the story, and the reason we started. So then after that, at least I went home and my wife looked at me and said, another startup, and I knew what she was meaning. So it was a terrible 6 years, roller coaster, completely. Most times we used to not take money home, just married, young. So a lot of all these issues hit us till the last 2 years, 3 years, where business really started looking up. And the physical chain was really profitable and did very well. So we had a profitable exit, as you rightly put it. So we took a break. I took a break first. Partners didn't take a break. They started investing into young startups and stuff like that. I did a little bit of work in vocational education and set up something for the Manipal group and stuff like that. And then we came back in 2011 when you must have heard of Ganesh and Meena.
Yes.
They're serial entrepreneurs. They run Portia. Ganesh is known to us for many years, so is Meena. Came up to us and said, things are back. And what they meant by things are back, the ecosystem is ready. And that is the key that was the thing that was most important to us. Broadband was there, we had smartphones, we had iPads, we had everything available for an internet economy to actually work. And Flipkart had shown the way to anybody who wanted to get into the e-commerce space. They set up in 2007. I think they were slow. By the time 2010, 2011, there were serious transactions happening on the internet. Payment gateways are available. All banks had set up their own gateways. So payment mechanisms were done. Internet was broadband, nice speed. Access was easy through smartphones and through iPads, etc. And so the ecosystem, the first tick box was done. And so we said, great. So three of us used to keep meeting while we were doing different things, saying, let's start something. But we couldn't find anything which was at that point in time ready. Going back home and telling them, let me start something, was also taking time. Finally, 2011 happened, and so three of us it took us about less than 5 minutes, I think, to say yes. And it took us another 5 minutes to get out of what we were doing. Literally. So it was very quick, right? So I got out of what I was doing. They were anyway not doing much, but they had their commitments to some of those people, but that went on, they pulled back. So that's how BigBasket started in 2011. Long story.
No, all the dots connect now. And it was initially ideas of Ganesh and Meena's that now it's ready.
It was initially Ganesh and Meena's idea to say grocery. They came up and said, vacant space, nobody better than I can think than three of you did, dabbled in online when online wasn't working, then set up the physical chain. So understanding the whole supply chain. Grocery is a very complex category, very difficult category, right? So if somebody understands that supply chain, then they're good. And they've also dabbled in online, even better. So the only space that was missing that time was grocery. Because Flipkart was pretty much doing most of the categories. And a couple of other verticals were also missing, but grocery was one thing that. So we said, great, it's right up our alley. We understand that piece, and that's how we got into it.
And Ganesh and Meena cut a $1 million check from Growth Story.
Yeah, so there was no growth story then. So they were just individuals at that point in time. The growth story came a little later, I think. But Ganesh, yes, we all put in a little bit of money, including Ganesh. All of us were equal contributors, small amount of money. Because I think we raised it was the largest Series A at that point in time. Because we didn't do angel funding. Angel meaning it was whatever we put in, few of us. We moved straight to Series A.
I remember Ganesh.
Which was Ascent Capital. Was the first investor who came in with a serious 10 million check. At that time, 10 million was a serious check.
Absolutely. Today,
this is 2011.
It would be like a $50 million Series A.
Yeah. So we were the first, we were the largest Series A at that point in time. Yeah.
I think the salaries were 10x cheaper than today.
I think so. Yeah. But BigBasket continues to be 10x cheaper actually. People who join here love what they're doing, but also love what they're running actually.
And this was your second venture, right?
Yeah.
Or you would call it second venture.
Fab Mall is one because it was Fab Mart became India Plaza, which shut eventually. Yeah.
And you had almost financially retired from your first exit, right? So why was this desire to start again? You could have led a retired kind of a life.
Oh no, you're too young for that.
What was your age when you started?
37. and I'm 60 now. So now what you're saying makes more sense than at 37. Because when I started, we were 37. So we were just pretty young we were one of the oldest entrepreneurs because we had started growing by then. Everybody else was 25, 26. Even now it's like that. We are still 60. So a lot of investors come and say we are investing in old people. Should we? People who didn't, bad luck for them. But people who did.
But going back 10 years. You were 50 when you started Bigbasket.
Yes, we were 50. So 50 is young. So at 50 you don't necessarily retire, right? So there was no question of and the exits those days were reasonably good, but I don't think you would be comfortable saying that this is all I need for the rest of my life.
And what advantages you had as second-time entrepreneurs, right? It's like
big advantages. So we've gone through what we've gone through in those 6-7 years. I think very few entrepreneurs had the opportunity because they all shut within 6 months of opening, right? Because there was no funding, everything had dried up. So there are very few people who went through that whole entrepreneurial journey at that point in time. And so we were lucky and we had the benefit. I'm telling you that flight, that pivot, I will never ever forget in my life. Because if we didn't do it, then all this experience, all this stuff would have happened. And I don't know what we'd be doing. Sitting in some IT company somewhere, painfully part of some 100,000 people, etc. Park, God, with one tag, walking in. Dog leash, I call it. Anyway, so we'd probably be doing something else, but I think the experience of one grocery itself, I think the whole benefit we got of supply chain, because we really innovated a lot in FabMall. We brought in a lot of new things, we brought in technology, which no grocer was actually using at that point in time, and all that was very helpful and useful. So we got up and running very fast, one. Secondly, when you go through a roller coaster, that all the learnings are within you, right? So there are a few things that it told us. One, ecosystem has to be ready. That I told you, we ticked that box first because everything was ready. There are two other very important things, if you ask me, that are required by people when they start. Very simple things, and you wonder what is so crazy about it. Second is capital, right? So of course you need capital. The mistake people make is that they don't raise enough capital for a longer runway because they want to optimize for stakeholding and not for growth and not for getting that thing off your head. Raising money is the most difficult, painful process for any entrepreneur. Most difficult, right? Everybody behaves nicely. Eventually, you're going to ask them for money and they'll tell you 5 reasons why they don't want to invest in you. And 6 months of your time goes into fundraise. 3 to 6 months. Okay, if you're lucky, it's 3 months. Otherwise, it takes 6 months, including diligence. I'm saying the whole process is a very painful process, right? And the lesser you do of it, the more you will focus on the business. And so one of the big mistakes most people make is optimize for stake and shareholding and hence valuation rather than the quantum of money you're going to raise. Because if you raise it for a longer term, and it's not easy, I'm telling you stuff which today most people do. But it took people so much more time to realize that I will raise money for 8 months because I want to have hold 60%, 70% of the 7 months, 8 months in a startup just flies like that. And then your business goes up and down. You can never predict what's going to happen. Some competitor will come, he will disrupt your business. All kinds of things will happen. Then 2 months are over and then you're nervous again for the next round of money. Raising money is not, unless you have a tap at home, which you open and money flows. Most people don't. They're all entrepreneurs who come out of not necessarily business backgrounds. And hence, there is a need to raise money. So raising capital for the long run and not optimizing on equity holding. I'm saying don't give up equity so easily. I think you'll negotiate hard, right? So you spend some time, you'll fight hard, but at some point, you've got to tell yourself that if this is the valuation that is going to help me get more money, I would choose more money to a lower valuation. But of course, there will be a baseline somewhere else. And most people get this wrong. And because of which they're spending more time raising money rather than growing their business. And third is, of course, the team. And I believe in one thing, that you must have a founding team which is minimum 2 or 3, not more, but can't be 1 because you go crazy just trying to build a business and there's nobody else to bounce ideas with. And the single thing that binds your founders is not skill, is not knowledge, is not any of those, it's only trust. And if you believe that you can trust each other, you will be longer. We have we are probably the only founders who have stayed together
for 20 plus years.
Correct. And there's a reason behind it. We just simply trust each other. There is never a day when you think somebody else is going to come on your back and my founders, I'm saying, never a day. So that is, then you just do what you have to do. We meet when we have to meet. We don't meet when we don't have to meet. And that's the biggest thing. So to me, there's this mantra of three things. One is ecosystem. Second is raise enough capital, which is not optimized for those things that I told you. And third is the team, which is built around trust, the founding team. So when these things were ticked, we said we are on.
And
took
you
5
have
minutes.
five co-founders in
Yes,
BigBasket.
we did. Yeah, so that's because we acquired a company in the very early stages, because that is one of the companies that Vipul and Sudhakar were consulting with in my earlier avatar of when I was in Manipal and trying to help build a vocation. And that company was building exactly what BigBasket was to build. Exactly the same. So there was a conflict. So we went and spoke to that founder and said there are two options. That one is that we won't be able to continue because we are doing something which is competing. Second is you can just join us. He also took less than 5 minutes actually. He said I'll join you. And he became part of us. That was Abhinay. And Ramesh has always been part of our old founding team. Actually we were 4. So we just continued like that.
And how do you divide equity between the founders?
Equally.
All the 5 people equally.
We don't have. We are. See, that's what I mean by trust. Yeah. See, the whole thing works around. That is, we don't have any egos on that front. Yeah.
But I am the CEO. I am contributing more. Nothing like that.
I wish it was like that. But we never did that. We'll never do it also.
And what are the mistakes that you made, right? Or some biases that you carried forward from your first venture into the second?
See, we made lots of mistakes in the first venture. And I'm being very upfront. People ask me this, right? What are your learnings and what are your mistakes? And very standard questions that I'm not saying that you're asking standard ones. This journey, touchwood, has been a journey where I really can't think or pinpoint a mistake that I've made, which I've learned from, and it has beaten us so badly that we got. This journey has been touchwood great. And because a lot of those learnings came, and I was talking to you about capital, right? So we were very clear about one thing. If we don't raise money, and that's why we had the largest Series A, because we went after quantum of money rather than valuation, and we got good valuations also. I mean, if you're good, you will get all of it. But I'm saying you don't optimize too much around it, and that's the reason, why we actually started at that point in time. And we told ourselves, if we don't get that money, we will not start. In fact, we were about 5-6 of us only that time. And we told ourselves very clear that if this money doesn't come, we are not doing a garage startup. We are not doing that anymore. It doesn't work for us yet. It's too stressful. It's too painful. So we will raise that quantum. If we don't, we will not do business. And that's the reason I was giving you some of that. So frankly, this journey, there hasn't been anything that I can today look back and say I made this gross mistake and I came out of it. But we had lots in the earlier journey. The online business starting itself was, if you ask me, a big mistake. Because we didn't it was just the fact we knew there was an opportunity of building an online site because somebody was building a payment gateway was not good enough to tell you to start. So you need to make sure that you research the ecosystem well enough. Today VCs do it for you. They will not invest otherwise. So they do all the work for you. But those days there was no such thing that people would do. You need to do it yourself and understand it. So that was the first biggest mistake we made. Second is capital. We didn't raise enough money. 9 months, 10 months, we were out in the market having to raise money. So it wasn't a great thing to do. It drains you out, right? Completely. But the founding team we got. So there were a lot of such things that we had learned. Relationships that we were trying to build, the model that we were trying to build. There was a lot of learnings from there. We made mistakes, got up and started building back. Fortunately for us, that business didn't last too long. In the physical space, it was fresh, new for us. So everything was a learning. So there were many mistakes we made. Fortunately, we didn't have to repeat any of those, and this journey has been fairly clean that way.
And you exited 60% plus of your company for $1 billion from Tata. Do you think that you could have built a $10 billion company given a few more years?
Of course, no. We will still build a $10 billion company. So there is nothing different in BigBasket. So it's an investment. It's not an acquisition, right? Because you may call it whatever. Yeah, it's a majority stakeholding, and we are of course now part of the Tata Group. You'll see all our logos saying Tata Enterprise.
Yeah.
We really like it. We really think we've done absolutely the right thing. A lot of matching values, culture, system. We just feel so much at home, right? Because there's so much of similarities between the group and us. We are of course much smaller, and that's the reason we did it. The other more important reason that we did it is that we have reached a stage in our company at $1 billion of sales. You need to now get strategics, or you need to get P's, because you at one point go out of this whole VC world because of the quantum of money that you probably need, the amount of stake they will get. So their whole model is very different, right? So they're up to early stage, Series A, Series B, Series D. At that point, you either need to get a P or you need to get a strategic, right? So we had the first strategic that came in 2 years before in the form of Alibaba. Unfortunately, because of all the issues that were there with China and stuff like that, they couldn't make further investments. But otherwise, Alibaba was was that. Then came COVID, and COVID, our business just boomed. We were a highly profitable business. Our business scaled no end, and that's the reason why we are now heading towards a $2 billion business. We got a big thrust during COVID, and that's the time the Tata approached us. So we were very clear that a strategy coming at this point in time is very important for us. The thing is for us to evaluate what will the strategy add value to, right? So what are you doing? If there is something that we can add value from a business perspective, or we derive value from the strategic, it makes a lot of sense. And there were a lot of things that we now derive value from the Tatas, not just the trust and the value systems, but so much of business that's available to us now within the group. In our B2B business, our Horeca side, our institutional business, we do a lot of stuff with them. And even now going forward, if you have to think of an IPO and stuff like that, it's the Tatas who will really help us do that. But BigBasket runs like an independent company. There is no change. People in the company feel better because they feel like being part of the Tata group and they all feel good about it. But BigBasket will still build a $10 billion, $20 billion business.
And you still own a good percentage.
Yes, of course. And we're still invested in it, we're still committed to it. But of course, I do a lot of work also with the Tatas. A lot of my team people work for Tata New, building that ecosystem. We support that ecosystem a lot. I also sit on the board of 1MG. So like I told you. So there's a lot of stuff that we do now. But BB runs like BB. There's no change. So we will continue to do it.
What are the three learnings, like the top three, that you observed from Tata and brought into BB?
See, one is simple respect for human beings is something we always had this within BB, but I actually see it happening there. And there's a lot of respect for people. They're just built like that. So that is one. Second is, I think they're the respect that a brand like that has outside is built out of a lot of stuff which is there internally. And this is one thing that we are learning as to. Even recently in this brand finance, they were rated as the best brand in India. All the brands actually have been rated very well. So it's a very known brand, right? So that's the second learning we have, is that while BigBasket is very similar, right? It's a very trusted brand. Because if you don't deliver groceries, you will never be trusted, right? Yeah. Because we are trusted because we thankfully managed to deliver groceries. It's not as much as delivering a mobile phone or a pair of shoes well. But if you deliver bad food, then you're not trusted. So it's a very similar feeling. So for us, the learning is to see how we can really enhance that brand value. One is people, and second is brand. And the third is the learning of how you can manage companies that you invest into in a manner which you don't interfere much. And eventually going forward, I'm looking at us maybe acquiring brands, acquiring companies. We've not done that. We built everything ourselves, but we will do that going forward. It's a model to really learn, and that's what Tata Sons is all about. Look at the number of companies that they've got under their fold, and each of them operates like an absolutely independent entity. CEO driven, board driven. When Tata Sons, there is a holding company. There is tremendous learning in that, in the way they manage it. And that's the learning that you will have when you start looking at companies. We already have companies. We've got Daily Ninja, we've got Salvis, we've got that instant machine, we've got some 3-4 entities already. The issue is managing those entities without really interfering, at the same time making sure that you have enough control is an art. And I think Tata has managed that extremely well. So to me, right now in the first 1 year, these are three things that I look at. I'm sure going forward there will be multiple other things.
And there's a 10-minute grocery delivery space. Do you think that's the way to deliver groceries?
I'm answering this question must be the 100th time. 50th time in the last 1 month. And it's a very interesting topic for me because we came in last.
Yeah.
BBNow. And now BBNow is going to scale the fastest. Actually, we'll scale very quickly. Here's my answer, right? I think it's definitely a need. There is a need. It's not 10 minutes, right? 10 minutes is going to break, right? Nobody can profitably deliver every order in 10 minutes. It's not possible. The network of dark stores you'll have to set up to do that is not profitable, right? So you will never be able to build a good unit economics based on only 10 minutes, which means all orders in 10 minutes. So you will build a model which is within 30 minutes, right? Less than 30 minutes. There'll be some which will go up to 90 minutes. So 30 to 90 is the range you'll find. That is less than 30, less than 90. For example, today, meat is all delivered in less than 90, right? Everybody is very comfortable. I don't need meat, fresh meat in 10 minutes because I'm planning to cook in the evening. So I have enough time available but it is still an impulse. Your decision to buy meat is not necessarily planned, right? You choose to buy, okay, let's cook something today which is using some meat product. So 90 minutes is very good. So you'll have some which is below 30, right? Unit economics, profitability all works in that kind of a model. It has got basically two strong use cases, very strong use cases, right? One is top-ups, emergency items. So people who buy on BB, when these 10-minute, 20-minute things came, a lot of our customers went there to buy stuff which they used to go to a kirana and buy. So none of the BigBasket business went there. So we're tracking it very carefully because we came 1 year later. We were not in no hurry actually. So our business is a very different business, and that business we still believe, we continue to believe that it will continue to grow and run, which is our full stack planned business, as I call it, right? People who plan their grocery. Most households plan their grocery. Then there are youngsters like y'all who would come in at 7 o'clock at home and want to cook dinner at 9. Now that BigBasket never served, right? So that's the second use case. So the first use case is top-ups, emergency. I forgot something, I need something, which is the typical planned customer also. Would call your neighborhood store and say, listen, just deliver that bread to me or that toothpaste to me or whatever it is. So it's a lot of that kirana neighborhood business that will now move here. Second is this unplanned youngsters who come home at 7 in the evening or 8 in the evening and decide to cook. For them, they will move their grocery purchases now to this model entirely. Earlier, they used to order cooked food. So Swiggy and Zepto was their go-to place, right? You come home and you order food because there's nothing available to cook unless you go down to the kirana and pick up some atta and pick up some stuff and start cooking, right? So these are the two strong use cases, and in my view, this will contribute to about 20 to 25% of the grocery buy, and that's it. Rest of it will continue to be planned and continue to be the way it's working, because this behavior is about 20-25%, except for that new set of new customers. For them it's 100%. But they will decide at 7 o'clock whether to buy masala dosa or to buy atta. So it's not that 100% grocery goes there. So this is a very strong use case. It was bound to come. I think got it going fast. VC community chases all this very quickly, and then everybody starts in India.
Hari, to 2022 June, do you find some similar patterns as of 1999 boom and bust? Yes.
No. I think businesses are here to stay. I told you this. I wish were you born then?
I was born.
Yeah.
But I was in school.
So I wish a lot of you would have seen that system there. It was just, I would think back and wonder why would somebody start in that situation? Very different. So right now it's very mature.
But the talks of recession, downturn,
it doesn't matter.
It's cyclic.
It doesn't matter. No, downturn is what? On funding.
Yeah, downturn in funding.
Yeah, funding downturn has got nothing to do with business. The business keeps growing. Downturn funding has to do with more what happens in some part of the country, and that's how the investment community works actually. So there will be those cycles will come. There will be some depression somewhere. There will be some issue somewhere. There's war going on somewhere. People will pull back on funding, hold funding. 10 minutes, you look at it right now. Right now, people are holding back on funding because people want to see profitable models which are going. And the only one that's going to build a profitable model today is of us, because it's not for us. It's an extension of our business, right? I've got the same DC, same supplier, same everything. My supply chain is just getting more and more loaded, which helps me get more efficient. And my front end is now a new set of stores. So it becomes a little easier for us. So they're waiting for models to become profitable. So they'll step back, they'll step up. So these cycles will continue here. But that is not the worry. The worry is that if there is no business itself and there isn't an ecosystem for the business to run, that won't happen. I think the businesses are just going to stay, grow. You will find more and more people moving online. Today, online grocery is 1% of the grocery in India. Right? This will move to 3%. Eventually, it will move to 8-9%, and then they become very large businesses. Right? Grocery is a very large TAM, 700 billion, 800 billion. So that's the size of that business. So you have enough space, enough opportunity, and businesses will grow. So the problem of 99 won't happen here. Cycles of investment will continue.
And which are the businesses that are going to suffer most right now? I'm not just talking about online groceries. I'm talking about, let's say, the entire startup ecosystem. You have been.
I tell you, businesses which will suffer the most right now are businesses that are not building a profitable model. People who are building on just for growth, and hence the model burns a lot of money, are the businesses that will struggle. Because I think that wave has turned, right? People are now wanting, you don't have to be profitable, right? Overnight. All you are wanting to demonstrate, or you're requiring to demonstrate, is a profitable model. You must explain to me that the model is profitable. That's happening. And if you don't do that, then it becomes difficult. And then if you don't, after getting the money, don't demonstrate it as you keep going forward, raising money will become more and more difficult. So I think unit economics and profitability are going to be the next, and logically so, yeah, why would you build a business that doesn't make money? It doesn't make sense, no?
But some people are just building that profitability
Won't
will come
work
to scale.
anymore. It won't work anymore. You've seen it in this instant grocery itself. It's literally, people are just, the Europe where it started is also going through so much of difficulty now. They're sending people home and so much of pain. Because their models built on stuff which will become profitable at some point in time, which is just too far away for anybody to really fathom.
And Hari, when you are backing founders, right, you have been backing for some time at an age where you are putting your own money. What are the things that you look
Actually,
yourself?
I'm not backing founders.
But you backed, right? Afsal and
Afsal was close friend. I come under emotional pressure that way, so I backed. So I did that. I've invested into a chain of pubs here called Sherlock because they're old FabMart colleagues. So it's got some connect like that. Afsal is a very close friend, and I like what he's doing also. But I actually invest in funds. So I'm an LP on 3 or 4 funds because it's like mutual funds. You give the money to somebody and they invest, somebody that you trust, and do that. I'm telling you, I just look at how good is the business from a ecosystem perspective. How much capital is that business going to raise? Capable raising, is the founder in the same wavelength as I am, saying that listen, I'm repeating now. I don't want to, because this is the only thing that I understand. Because if you don't raise enough money, then I don't think you should start the business. The founders are very critical. I just try and figure out whether these founders live on trust or they just live on skill, right? Yeah, skill you can hire, yeah. And if you don't get a sense of the fact that these people trust each other, so you want to know how long back do they go, do they really know each other, and that's something that I really want to look at and engage. Afsal was easy because he was the only guy at that time, and I knew that what he would do is what he's seen happening. And even they were friends from IML who got together. They understand each other extremely well. So that's really the 3 things that are very important for me. It's important to know that it's in the right ecosystem, in the right space. It's raising enough capital for it to last longer, and founders are not going to be spending time raising money. And third is the trust that people are building amongst the founding team. These are tick that I'm. What else can you look at here?
And since 2011 to now 2022, a lot has changed in the startup ecosystem. What would be your sense of how this is going to shape the next 5 to 7 years for India?
See, I think what will happen is you will see the ecosystem is getting tremendous amount of focus, tremendous amount of push from the government and from regulatory bodies, from every perspective. You want to see that this ecosystem, because this is standing out with the rest of the world today, right? What India has built in this ecosystem. In fact, people say you're number 3 in the ecosystem, but to me, I think we are better than a lot of these other countries because they have a lot of regulatory stuff that's going on other than the US. And US has so much tech, right? We have built businesses across domains which actually you haven't seen even in the US. And to me, I think this ecosystem is really going to build now. All you will see now is that people starting to focus more on profitability. That's the point I'm trying to make. Build businesses which make sense, right? From a perspective of scale. And when I say profitability, I must tell you what I like doing and I want people to do is scale profitably. There's no point in building a tiny business that's profitable. So you need scale and you need to be profitable. You will see these businesses coming up now and getting tremendous amount of boost and push from all sectors, from all life. businesses, traditional business houses are now going to start looking at using e-commerce. See, one is e-commerce, right? Or startups. Second is, I think, this whole wave of digital data moving into organizations will be the next big thing, right? Now, most organizations don't survive without data, right? Now they've realized that it's such an important thing and they're trying to build data, make sense of it. So, the digital wave across organizations, the next big thing, that's not e-commerce, that's not startups. But I think these are the two things you will see big time happening going forward.
And Hari, if you have a framework that how to spot large opportunities, what would that be in your own sense?
See, to me, the framework is basically built around scale and built around profitability. So if you see businesses that first have a large, that's what tells you that you can scale, right? First, and then you have to also check as to how many players are already there. If it's very crowded, then you don't have to. So scale and profitability are the two things that the lens I use is essentially, other than the three things that I talked about. If you don't have one of the two, then the business just doesn't make sense.
But even for BigBasket to become profitable, you took 10 years to reach.
Yeah. So that's what I said now. See, right from year 1 or year 2, I think, or year 3, we knew exactly that this model is profitable. And the first thing we demonstrated 5 years back or 6 years back is to become CM positive. So we are profitable today at CM3, CM4 level, which is basically everything you sell, you're making money. You're not selling it at a loss. That's the first thing you've got to achieve, right? If you're selling it itself at a loss, then there's no starting point.
Then with scale you drive.
Exactly. So at contribution margin was our first focus, right? We brought in all our energies, and then we added our contribution margin. The way we look at it is post discount, post warehouse, post logistics. On top of it, what sits is only corporate and above the line marketing. And that I will continue to invest for the next 10 years because that's what's giving me growth. And that tap I can shut anytime. Growth will come down, but it will be much higher than what it was earlier. So you are very comfortable shutting that tap or reducing that tap. Corporate anyway is all salaries. That doesn't scale with the business. So we brought in everything into the CM about 4 or 5 years ago, including discounts. And that's at that level we were CM positive. And when you look at that business profitable, then what you're investing in is marketing, you're investing in technology. And that's all for scale. You have 1% of the business here, all e-commerce. All e-commerce 4%. Groceries 1% of.
Hari, can you describe what is the culture? You mentioned that the people at BigBasket, they are not going for 10x salaries outside, right? What is the culture that keeping them here?
We basically have 4 value systems and 4 elements of culture. And I'm not going to go through each one of them. And we are very focused on making sure that people internalize and imbibe this. And we don't do this for basically putting it up in my reception, saying, so we don't have mission, vision and all. We don't have all that. Because there are certain goals that we set ourselves every year, and so we don't make such glorious statements. There are good things to it. I'm not saying good or bad. We just didn't. For us, it's all about somebody imbibing my value systems and my culture that we have actually defined for this organization. For example, we have one of these elements which is called integrity. Now, that is, everybody has integrity here. You know, which organization you tell me doesn't have integrity as part of its value systems or part of its culture? Everybody has integrity. The issue is that if you have to define integrity the way you want your people to behave, and that we define. So what integrity for us is the power to say no. That's integrity for us. See, stealing is integrity. Obviously, you want to say don't steal. You don't need to tell people don't steal. But most of the organizations, the way where they say integrity means that. For us, integrity means the power to say no. Which means that if I don't know something, if I'm able to sit in a meeting and say, sorry, I don't know it, in front of people, in front of his boss, I think we have achieved integrity. Which means that I'm honest to myself that I say no. This is how we have defined all the 8 elements as to what it means for us. We'll focus on customers. Yeah, everybody says customer. Which consumer organization doesn't say customer is king? Correct? So for us, we have gone steps below to define what it means here. So CEO burns midnight oil solving customer issues is a known fact in this company, and I'm not feeling proud about it. It's just that It's just that I like doing it because it's such a core value for us. Because we just live by customers. I'll give you an example. When we started, right? We have this rewards and recognition programs, right? So I'll just give you an example. 2011, right? We do this rewards and recognition program. So those days I used to go myself. Nowadays I'm not able to because we are some 40 DCs. So this is Bangalore DC. So I went there and stood on the dais and somebody was getting an award. We finished all that. And then I asked this crowd of about maybe 50 people. Today we are 30,000. Who pays you your salary? So everybody said Hari Menon, HR, standard answers, right? So not a single person said customer there. Today, when I go to a DC, 5,000 people, 8,000 people sitting there, in chorus people say customer. Chorus. So that only tells me that my maniacal focus on customers has gone down. People are at least saying that. More importantly, if you go to any DC of mine, you'll see my day's customer metrics there. That day's metrics, everybody sees it visible there. If something goes wrong, they all get very excited. Our mechanisms of managing that through multiple levels is at a very different level today. So we know exactly if customers are happy on a day or they are not. So that's what maniacal focus on customers meant to us. So each of those 8 elements, we said what does it mean to us and we drive that in. And I think that's what makes people comfortable here. And they see everybody right from me downwards, following it, living it, and that helps. So I think we do great work. Selling dal chawal atta is what we do for a living. Somebody asked me, Bits Pilani graduate, shit, what do you do? I sell dal chawal. So
Dal chawal at scale.
Dal chawal, pyaz. So that they just love doing that because it's complex. Right, we work with 30,000 farmers. We've got this end-to-end integration with farmers right now, which is called our Farm Connect. We know exactly which farm it's come from. We're now starting to show farmers pictures that this what you're eating right now has come from this farmer. A lot of stuff. We're very deep on the supply chain.
And as a CEO, you set the culture for everything, right? Not including what the deepest level just focuses on. How you have been able to grow with the business? Because there's a saying that as a CEO, if you don't grow along with the business, you need to handle the reins.
Very valid question. Very good question. That is another thing I find. A lot of young founders, and I'm not saying this because I've got grey hair, but it helps. Investors don't like grey hair for some strange reason. But I'm just kidding. What is necessary is that every founding founder or every senior person in the team has to start scaling with the business. Mentally scaling, right? You need to be able to think scale. And you can't start collapsing when scale happens. I've seen this, you would have seen it too in many places and that's because you're not tuning yourself internally. There's no magic to that. Is that all the time you got to tell yourself, now I'm one city, in 3 months I'll be 3 cities. In the next 6 months I'll be 12 cities. In the next 8 months. So what happens is that you start thinking of building processes and systems for scale. So today it's a cookie cutter system, right? So we just go and plonk a DC and it takes us a week, 10 days to get operational. What used to take us a month. That's what scale does. So that's what mentally you prepare yourself for. And if you don't do that, you won't scale, first of all. You're always scared and worried about scaling. And that's what pulls companies down. So I think it's a mental issue, right? It's a preparedness issue that you got to tell yourself. That's why capital I keep talking about, right? If you don't raise the capital for scale, you'll never think scale. So then you're always thinking, how am I going to optimize the little money I have and keep growing? And it becomes very difficult after that.
And so even you like to go after ambitious founders who are raising, let's say, 50 to 100 mil
yes.
at the first round.
Yes. Absolutely.
But how do you identify those core team members that you had initially, right? Out of the 5, that every person was tuned to scale?
No, we know each other before we knew our wives. And that's the advantage we had.
But even later to co-founders which joined you.
I think we were just married and stuff. So we knew each other for a very long time. We worked together from even the previous company that Planet Asia, TVS Electronics. Go back a long way.
Yeah.
That helps. We just know each other's weaknesses than.
And what about the people that you hired? Were you able to tune out that this person is good for now, but he or she will not scale?
Attitude is a very big criteria for us. Very big criteria. So if I have to hire somebody, I'm trying to figure whether this person has the right attitude. I keep saying no. Skill is, he will come with some skill, right?
Yeah.
And I don't have too much to understand depth of that skill unless it is a very specialized job, right? But otherwise, to me, it's all about attitude. And we are in a new business here. You can never get people who know everything about your business. Never. And so you have to take these chances. And the chance I will not take if somebody I read and see or is referred to me and gets a reference that this guy has a poor attitude, I will not touch him. But first tick box for me is absolutely his attitude. If you have that, now to me, I think everything else falls in place. And very difficult to measure what is
It's
attitude.
very subjective, right? Attitude can be like, I'm good at managing
So I
10
make
people.
mistakes there, no? So I sometimes think he's got a good attitude and it turns out the other way around. But that's okay, I can't measure it otherwise. I do referencing. I ask people, how's he? How? And that's what I do. You make mistakes. I've made mistakes there.
And I believe initially you would have been a hustle person, right? In your early entrepreneurial days. Right now you talk about processes. How do you become a processor?
We will never hustle. That is one thing that, please read this book on Bigbasket, right? It says saying no to Jugaad. It's written by Hari Menon.
Yes,
He's the one who referred you all to me. And Money, who was an analytics person. Fantastic. Hari has really captured what is our essence. Our essence is process, right? From day one. And we've come like this from our earlier organization. Day one is process, no asking. We don't do Jugaad. First day of the company. We build processes. We also expect people just to follow process. What is that thing the horses wear here? What is it called? Yeah. We'd rather prefer people not asking questions and just follow process, but it doesn't work like that, right? Then you're not promoting innovation. Process and innovation don't necessarily go together. Because people who innovate don't necessarily follow process because you have to break stuff.
You have to break process. Old process wouldn't work.
So we balance that very well. So we make sure that company is completely process driven. Otherwise, grocery not possible, right? At the same time, we get innovation so much deep into us, and we balance the two. This requires a little bit of grey hair, but it helps us understand that well. So I think we just balance innovation and process well. But no, we don't start anything without first laying down the process for it.
And a personal question, with the exit or like partnership with Tata, did enough people become financially independent in the company?
See, I can't speak for what is independence, but I think yes, a lot of people had ESOPs and a lot of people managed to sell, and it was nice. Actually, that's all I can say. I can't talk about how independent they got. Of course, somebody also came and once mentioned to me that I don't think there was enough space in my bank account. This varies, depends on where you are in the organization, kind of stocks. But it's been a very comfortable, happy moment. A lot of people who sold ESOPs were.
Like for me personally, is the people that who work with me, can I make them financially independent or not?
See, that's the key thing for us, yeah. So like I told you, we are equal from our founder perspective. It's not about somebody getting more or less. The critical thing for us was that we wanted to make sure that our employees have enough stake in the system. Once they have stake first based on culture, values, what they see here, they love the work, and so they have stake. Second, stake is real stake, right? So they have enough available and so whenever there is a exit opportunity, people get it. So we a lot at every round of fundraise to make sure that some amount of ESOPs are created. Our investors have been very cooperative on this, very supportive. They believed in the same ethos that we had in terms of making sure employees are kept happy. Listen, who said this? Richard Branson, I think. He says employees are more important than customers, right? And it made some sense to me also, right? If you don't have good employees, your customers are anyway going to suffer. So what do you focus on? You need to focus on the customer, you need to focus on the employee. There's no question about it.
Thank you so much, Hari, for this wonderful conversation. I learned a lot personally.
Pleasure.